Once again, another episode. We're live. I believe we're live now. I'll check later. But we're here today to talk about the issues. I was on TV and talking to also talking to some constituents. We were discussing poverty in America, and I had to go to the U.S. Census Bureau and look at the rate, right, and see what was it true. It's crazy, man. They saying it's 36, almost 37 million people in the United States that's living in poverty. And I was in Texas for a short period of time, going to school down to the university. I came back home, and I noticed a stark difference in just the living. I heard a lot about it in some of my econ courses that I've taken. They were talking about what's happening in America is going to be bi-coastal. Most of the livable cities is going to be on the West Coast and the East Coast. And, because they have a lot of, East Coast has the original infrastructure of the country. So they're pretty strong there. And they've been dealing with, for centuries, they've been dealing with different type of storms and stuff. So they got a stronger of a platform. We're on the West Coast. We're later in the game as far as establishing the states. We established in the late 1800s. They've been established since the 1600s, 1500s. So they have at least a couple hundred years on us. It's amazing when you really look at the historical how account of how America came about and the time frames. When you go chronologically look back, you see a lot of the infrastructure that was laid and what time frame they laid the infrastructure. So they got the storms that came, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, whatever hazardous situation come, they were able to deal with it over years and years out. Certain East Coast cities have been changed altogether, been uprooted and placed in other parts of the state, parts of the country. I didn't know Philadelphia was the original city where DC was. That's where originally some of that's context of Liberty Bell. So I was surprised to learn. I'm like, oh wow. So then I started researching a little further. I'm getting off topic a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is, are you surprised to see that many Americans living in poverty? Not working class poverty. It's a fraction of them that's working class poverty, but there's millions and millions, tens of millions of people that's living in poverty. If it weren't for the government, they would suffer. Basically, they would be in dire need. So I was just surprised, and I don't know what's going on in the world with the international borders we have and the international countries. Now we're seeing a lot of things being revealed in Congress, and we're seeing a lot of things are being revealed about where the funding is going, where the funding went, and it's shocking to see. Like, man, wow, you put money here? We don't know. And we had a Congresswoman that spoke and said, Doge is not making no decisions. That we just use them as like a research, qualitative research. They're looking at the government departments and looking at the accountability and seeing where the physical waste is, the financial waste, or if there is. Now, if there's no waste, then there's nothing to worry about the agency. But I like what the Congresswoman said, the U.S. Congresswoman stated. She said, we're sending them to look at everything and to see if there is any waste. So we have such a deficit, the U.S. deficit, trillions and trillions of dollars, that we got to get a hold of this. You know what I mean? It was bound to come on the Obama watch, Biden's watch, the previous watches, the last 20 years. It's like they just started, There's been lowering, and Obama started some of that. Gotta give him his respect. Obama started that, and then, everybody gotta recognize that. So he brought deficit, but he reduced the deficit as well under his watch. And I thank for the President Obama for doing that as an American. but now it's like trillions and trillions of dead low guys that it's amazing. Like I'm starting to see why certain things are priced out of control. I don't know your opinion of that about the you know the local economies across the U.S. United States of America, and looking at the cities, the towns, the major metropolitan cities. There's a lot of turmoil that's happening to regular citizens that don't have a voice. We look at what's happening in Chicago. The media appeared to be like talking about like it was not a big deal. But when I talk to relatives that's in Chicago, we ain't talking about the ones that's in the streets and doing what they do. That's the young boys and the white girls, the YGs and the YBs, the one the wilding out there. We're talking about citizens that's really trying to function and have a life in the city of Chicago. They say it's rough. They say really rough, and I have some conversation. I say, how are the people dealing with it? They say it's difficult. You know what I mean? They feel like they don't have no support. I was like, what? But the mayor of the city of Chicago's mayor is saying all these wonderful things in the media. He acknowledged some problems, but he's making it seem like it's not at that level. But when I talk to local people back there, it's like they say, no, it's horrible here. I'm like, wow. Okay, I'm getting mixed reviews, you know, because I'm all the way on the West Coast, and I'm saying, well, why is this happening? So then I started looking at the media and started tuning into the Chicago Midwest news and seeing what's really going on from different perspectives on at the diplomatic level, as far as state and city, county level, and I'm just like, oh wow, there is some problems going on here, but that's neither here or there. But also with the Americans that's living in poverty across the nation, we're looking at the labor-ready groups. You know, there's a lot of people surprised in this country. There's millions of people that don't have degrees. Millions and millions of people don't have degrees, and they can't find work. You know, and I'm like, I understand. You know, certain cities in America are very difficult to develop skill sets. There's a lot of opportunities, but it takes time. And as you grow and develop in society, you get more responsibilities as a young adult, and definitely as an adult. So I think there should be some more consideration for what's going on. I think Americans that's doing decently, the working class people that's having nice lives, should be aware of what's happening to their fellow citizens, and basically the citizens that's in your area. I don't know your view about that. I see some chats. I'm doing this on over my phone this time, and so I'm gonna look over the chats and I'm gonna leave some comments later. But right now, I just had this on my mind. I want to get this out. I want to know you guys' opinion. Did you know there was 36.8 million people that's living in poverty in America? That's crazy. I just can't get that numbers in my mind. Like, wow. If you go to certain countries, that's more than their populace. If you go to Central America, a lot of the countries down there, they don't have that population in the whole entire country. It's like Guatemala don't have that many people. I don't think Nicaragua Costa Rica had that many people. El Salvador, if you look at the central countries, they don't have the whole populace, don't have that many people in there. And we got that many people live in this country in poverty. Although we have 300-some million people in this country, almost 340 million people that's documented here as citizens of the country, that's affecting a lot of things. Labor. I'm talking to people that's back in my community, and I know from all over the place, all over the country. It says it's difficult to find jobs. Like, you know, a lot of people believe it or not, people that got decent jobs, they lose like labor ready and serves like that to augment their salaries. Like, let's say in America, what it used to be like, I'm gonna be honest, I know this from family members. Like, if you want to go travel on a vacation and you need about $5,000 or $10,000, right, to save the park, they would go work at a labor ready after they worked there 8 hours and do 4 hours here or 8 hours on the weekends until they get that money budgeted for the vacation. And so they would work labor-ready jobs on the weekends, you know, be it traffic control, road making, working out there, painting the roads, picking up trash, whatever the city, whatever the labor jobs that these labor companies offer, painting, whatever, security, whatever it was, they would look at for opportunities like that. And now they're not hiring a lot of Americans for these jobs. And I'm like, why? What you mean they're not hiring Americans? They're U.S. companies. Then I was watching on news on some of these small news channels, and they were saying a lot of labor radios in New York, Chicago, major cities are not hiring the lower-level American workers because they can get cheaper work. And then they was doing documentaries on this. I was like, oh, this is crazy. I said, there's no way this is legally possible they could do this. And so when I started watching, I was like, they are doing it, guys. I'm like, wow. They are taking people from Haiti, from Jamaica, Dominican Republic, different other countries, even from European countries, and they're taking them and they're hiring them to work under the table at these factories. They used to hire poor Americans that now they can't get because they could give them $6, $7 an hour, and most Americans want like 9 or 10, and on the West Coast, the East Coast is like 15 for minimum wage. So a lot of these companies can't afford to hire. They're not going to be successful, so they're doing what they have to do to survive. Although it's illegal, I hear they're still doing it, and they're actually got documentarians out there following these groups, and they're working in, like, believe it or not, places, real famous places. I'm not going to say no names, but some of these places out here, they have warehouses that hire people to do overnight stocking and stuff like that, shipping and handling. And so them jobs used to go to poor Americans. They're no longer doing that. So that was on my mind. I just want to talk to you guys and see what your view is on this topic. Why there are so many Americans living in poverty within the domestic USA, and should we be concerned with this, or is this a norm? And actually, let me give you another statistics. I looked over on the U.S. Census since the 1950s. There's been some fluctuation, but there's been like decade periods of time when their poverty rate has been high, even higher than 38,000, up to 50, 40-some million people in America for periods of years that's lived in poverty. And we heard that back in the day about, I think Bush was talking about it when he was the president, the Clintons, and I think Obama spoke on it too when he was the president, about the poverty rate inside the domestic USA with American citizens. So there's nothing new. Every country has a poverty rate, but ours is such a high level, you don't even expect it to be this high. It's over 11% of the populace in America that we have such a large poverty rate. So I just had to get off my chest. What do you think? What's your opinions? Should we, present this to Congress? Should there be a mandate to deal with the poverty rate, create jobs, learning centers to give Americans better skill sets? They can work in certain jobs that they maybe couldn't get before. They could be more employable in the spaces that we do still have within the domestic USA. What is your opinion? This is on my mind. I'm gonna stop right here. Till next time. Subscribe below. Let me know your opinion as an American, and tell me what you think. What we should do. Have a wonderful day. We're stopping it right now, guys. I'm trying to figure this out.